Yes.
We're good. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the IEEE Women in Engineering, Emerging Innovation and Entrepreneurship series. Today, we are hosting our webinar about Women Entrepreneurs Roundtable. And we are gathering three amazing leaders from all over the world, South America, US, and UK. And we are very glad to welcome our amazing speakers. We're going to introduce them after that. And before that, I want to take the time today to celebrate 140 years of advanced technology for humanity. IEEE was founded in 1880, and it has been founded by Thomas Edison, Charles Steinmetz. He was one of the people who really gave a lot to IEEE, and multiple other geniuses like Windsurf and so on. So we are very honored and glad to be part of IEEE, and we're going to continue innovation throughout the humanity and throughout the years. So just to give you a bit of heads up about IEEE, is the world's largest technical professional organization dedicated to advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. It has over 460K members in over 190 countries and 39 technical societies. It has more than 171K student members throughout the world and 344 sections in different regions of the world. So thank you all for joining us today. Also, IEEE Women in Engineering, like our committee and organization, is a distinguished network with over 25 years of social impact and over 35,000 members in more than 1,000 groups, serving local communities in all over the world, in all different regions. And we did a lot of initiatives, including conferences, IEEE We Day celebration, a lot of projects throughout the world, and we are organizing a lot of tech competitions. So I hope that you're gonna join us and bring all of your peers and members to and support IEEE Women in Engineering. So about today's webinar series, as I already mentioned, it's going to be a roundtable about entrepreneurship. So about our webinar, it's a series where industry leaders and practitioners are going to share a lot of experience and opinions and bring a lot of added value to inspire you and to be more innovative and guide you on how to use better tech and how to get some funding opportunities. So we have multiple topics throughout the year, and each session is going to be for 90 minutes. And our audience, as you can see, they're experts and professionals. Just some rules for our session. It's going to be recorded. It's going to be published via IEEE TV and all social media of IEEE. I hope that you can all share it with the student branches and then come back with other questions. You can also connect with our speakers, and we're going to moderate the questions throughout the discussion. So feel free to ask your questions, but please mute yourselves. And today's speakers, as you can all see, are Marty Grimmix. She is the founder and CEO of International Connector. Rabeb Othmani, she is the previous senior product owner and entrepreneur. Helen Pedroso, she's a design strategist and founder of Carry.design. The session is going to be moderated by me. Some are part of the committee of IEEE We webinar series. I work as a project manager, and I'm also an IT engineer. And Abir Sharmiti. Yes, Abir, you can say a word about yourself if you want.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to welcome everyone and the panelists and speakers, and I appreciate you for making the time to share your knowledge and expertise with our audience. Our audience is students and professionals around the globe within IEEE or even non-IEEE members. I invite everybody to drop their questions in the chat as we go, and I hope we have a great conversation. About myself, my name is Abir Sharmiti, and I am a tech and business consultant, passionate about AI and entrepreneurship, and also empowering women around the globe, especially in the STEM field. Over to you.
Thank you, Abir. So we're not going to continue a lot with the PowerPoint boring presentation. We're going to start the conversation with our speakers. So thank you so much for joining us and also for watching our webinar. in all over the world in different timelines. And let's start by introducing our speakers. Marty, if you want to give us a bit of idea about your journey, experience, who you are, why you are part of our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Samar, Abir. Thank you so much for having me today. I really am honored to be here. I am the founder and CEO of International Connector. We're a global agency that focuses on workforce development and market research, mostly for multinational tech companies. And our expertise is in the younger demographics, mainly around the future of work. I see we actually not only focus on innovation, but we also look at how we can make a difference in the world, especially around reducing inequalities. So as a result, we have developed a number of platforms, impact programs, brands that focus on this area. And just to highlight a couple, because it kind of paints the full picture of our work, we run Your Big Year, which trains young people in 190 countries. Innovative Resilience, which brings internet connectivity, technology, and training to communities around the world. Future of Women in Tech. So I love the alignment with this. This elevates women's voices in business. And of course, we also run both IBM Z and IBM Skills Build ambassador programs. So just with all of that in the background, I don't have a straightforward path by any means. I came out of the theater and live entertainment producing world. And that basically means that I've always been an entrepreneur creating my own work. I wanted to have kids and the lifestyle just didn't sync. So I made a big decision and I left what I was doing. I went to get a master's at NYU. I got pregnant and I launched International Connector all at the same time, which is a trifecta that I really do not recommend for anybody. But it has led me, down a really amazing path. And I think I have a question for everybody. And of course, I'm not going to hear all your answers, which is very sad, but I wanted to know what drew you to entrepreneurship. Like, what does it represent for you? And just briefly to touch on it, from my perspective, there are three things that really have come together as being an entrepreneur. And the first one is that most of my clients, right, they're multinational corporations or governments, but yet I wasn't really suited to work internally at these organizations. I'm a creator and I need a place that I could bring all of my skills and my diverse interests together. So that first thing, and that I say to you, is just, if you can't find that space, then create your own. The second thing is that I've been really lucky that I have amazing people in my life. But then there's, on the flip side, people that were really draining and demeaning. And my superpower is really more about like building relationships, right? So I chose to focus on the people that believe in me. And ultimately, as an entrepreneur, your clients are investing in you. So I spent years cultivating these relationships. I mean, if you think about how long it takes to land a client, especially a massive corporation, right, where there's lots of layers and lots of steps, it can take years of work. So my clients have become lifelong friends that I really care about, and that's not transactional for me. So relationships, build these strong relationships. And that to me is a real symbol of what it means to be an entrepreneur. And then the third thing for me is it's really, entrepreneurship is not simple, right? Especially over the long run. At every stage, there's a new challenge and there's new situations that you have to deal with. And so I think that it's something that you have to really love to do. Like, you have to love your work. And so focusing as an entrepreneur, like on the areas that really drive you, that is super important. And I have so much more I can say, but I'm going to hold there.
Thank you so much, Marty. And just a heads up for everybody, Marty is my mentor, and I worked with her when I started with IEEE and when I wanted to start my entrepreneurship journey. Now I work 9 to 5, and I will be back to entrepreneurship for sure, because as they say, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
Yes.
But I'm very honored and happy to be part of this session with you, Marty, because she's a person that you can learn a lot from. And thank you so much for sharing your experience. Also, I know all the audience personally, I think, so I'm very glad. Also now to give the word to Rabeb. And before that, I wanted to answer your question, Marty. Maybe for me, entrepreneurship is freedom and passion. So this is what it represents for me. I would love for everybody here in the session to also answer the question while they take the speech and the words. And I will go to you, Rabeb. Like, please introduce yourself. Give us a heads up about you, who you are, your journey. Thank you.
Hi, the conversation is already amazing. I just want to listen. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. So my name is Rabeb. I'm based in the UK. I grew up in Tunisia, North Africa. I got a degree in computer science engineering. And then just after getting my degree, I left home and I moved to the UK. So, and that's kind of started, that's an adventure, you know, new life, new culture. I always worked full-time jobs, but I was lucky enough, I worked in advocacy, developer relations, where there was a lot of public speaking and traveling around. So I've been working remotely for at least 10 years now, way before the pandemic. And it's kind of like, you start taking things for granted, and I'm like, I'm never gonna back to an office again. So for me, I think it's like the flexibility and being able to travel, to work from anywhere and travel. I love traveling more than anything in this world. When I was little, I would spend in a Mediterranean hot country. A child should be sleeping the siesta. I would spend my siesta time. I had a globe, and for whatever reason, I made it my mission every summer to try to memorize the capitals of countries. And at that time, I just came up with this game. And years later, and I'm an avid traveler, and that's all I wanted to do. So I think for me it was always more flexibility. The more I get of that, the more I want more of it. It's like having more agency on my life, on my time. And it wasn't an easy decision. I was picking up on a few things that Marty was saying. I went through the exercise of what are my strengths? What do I like to do? When do I thrive more? And kind of slowly, I have it still written in a notebook where I'm a go-get-it person. Big corporations are not always the place for that, and God knows that created lots of frustration for me at times, because I'm like, this is simple, can we just do it? But no, you can't just do it. So I'm a go-get-it person. I'm also I'm good at building relationships, talking with others. I like coming in, fixing a problem, and getting out. So taking all these pieces together, and I'm like, I want more agency and control over my life. I want to pick the products I work on. I am a product consultant, so I want to choose what problems I want to fix, what organizations I want to work with, what things align with my values. The world is getting more and more crazy by the day. So these are things that are important for me. am I doing something that really aligns with my values? And eventually it wasn't an easy decision because, you know, you're leaving something that is like a secure job, monthly salary to try the unknown in particularly, not particularly a very great time for like IT these days or the economy in general. But also there was that thing in me that is, if I don't try this, if I don't try it now, I will regret it forever. And I'm like, I can always go back to the corporate world if I need to. God for I hopefully I will never need to do that. But like you kind of, you know, you try to convince yourself. And this is how I ended up you know, being solo, being a consultant. And the other thing is you will notice like the difference in our profiles, because I guess when people talk about being an entrepreneur, there is like that romanticized idea of like, you know, the women in high heels and like you have like teams, etc. No, actually I make a very conscious decision that I want to be small and stay small. I don't want to, like, I don't have, at least for now, I don't know, people do change, so don't hold it against me, but at least for now I don't have the ambitions to like create a company, have people working for me. My type of internship is me, I work with other, you know, organizations, I help them while keeping my own independence and agency. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much, Rabeb. And like it's also one of the type of entrepreneurship. Like you don't really need to have your own team or your own company, but you are the company. You know, you are the person who is offering your services. You represent your own company, and that's the freedom and entrepreneurship also. So thank you so much. And just so I can also share a bit of personal side about the speakers. I've always been inspired by Rabeb, and I always wanted, like, I always admired her journey, and I saw like how she improved and evaluated. And when she posted on LinkedIn that now she's independent, I was like, oh my God, I need to do that. So thank you so much for sharing this. And now welcome to our speaker from Brazil, Helen Pedroso. We also work together with Marty, just as a record. And now she's independent and entrepreneur. And we would love to know more about your journey, Helen, how it started, how did you do it, what got you inspired, and a bit of about you. Thank you.
100%. Thank you so much, Samar. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. Super, super nice to be among women, especially in technology. I feel like even though I am not a super techie person, I've always been surrounded by amazing women in innovation and technology. Among them, Samar and Marty, for sure. So I feel like it's such a pleasure always to be around amazing woman. It's always so inspiring. Just listening to Rabeb, I knew Marty's story, so that doesn't count, right? But I just listening to Rabeb's story now, like it's always so inspiring to be around people who share the same values as you, and like it always hit it off so fast, you know. So, well, a little bit about me then. Again, I worked with Marty. She's the boss that I worked with the most in my life, so I feel like it's been, you know, a record for sure. And I only left her because I wanted to become an entrepreneur, for the record too. So, you know, otherwise I would probably be working with her until now. So yeah, I feel like for me, entrepreneurship started, for the record too, when I started my career, like in my first internship, I used to say to people, I am never going to be an entrepreneur. Just for the record, like I used to be that person, because I would say like, oh yeah, invoicing, all of that. I'm not that person. What do I want with any of that? Like I'm not that person. Accounting, I don't know that. You know, finance. But you know, here I am years later, an entrepreneur. I feel like actually my journey has been a little, all the entrepreneurs that I knew back then, I didn't actually knew their story. I knew their success story, you know? So I feel like nowadays we get to hear a lot of the backstage more. And I feel like whenever I talk to entrepreneurs, there's this one point in my story that connects, which is I didn't want to become an entrepreneur. It was literally the only way I saw to not do anything illegal. You know what I mean? It was the only way that I saw to like, okay, I'm going to make this a thing. And then, you know, no one is going to bother me about it anymore because it's the path. It's the path that people are going to bother me the less. So I feel like it was a sort of counterintuitive decision, if I'm being 100% honest, because becoming an entrepreneur, I didn't see the business for itself in the beginning. There was a lot of self-search, as Rabeb said, like in her journey. I did a lot of inner search. I did a lot of like trying to understand what kind of entrepreneur I was. There are different profiles, as you figure, right? As a long study person that I am, like I started long hours studying it, and then I understood there's different profiles to it. So I feel like, to your question, Marty, for me, entrepreneurship is really about be honoring yourself, if I'm being 100% honest. Like, if you know who you are, and you know what you're in the world for, I feel like even if you're within a company, right, you can be an intra-entrepreneur, like you can be an entrepreneur attitude person within a company. I feel like if you're just honoring who you are, but you're proactive, you want to solve problems, you know your capabilities, your skills, your strengths, and you want to serve other people with those, I feel like that's what I consider honoring yourself, you know? So I feel like for me, my journey has always been a little entrepreneurial from the beginning, right? I started my journey very early on. As I was 13 years old, I decided I wanted to be a designer. Then as I was 15, I met my first mentor. You know, there's all these twists and turns. I went to the US. I studied at Parsons for a year with a scholarship. And then I came back to Brazil. I went to India. I lived in India for a bit for work too. I traveled a lot of places for work, especially with Marty. I got to meet Marty the first time for a project. I did a lot of work for traveling. A lot of, you know, so I feel like for me, my story with entrepreneurship is, first of all, when I started it, I wanted to understand what kind of entrepreneur I was. And for me, I was also a designer, you know, that's what I was. And then, of course, I studied strategy, and then I specialized in design strategy, which is what my field of expertise now. But I didn't really realize until, like, you know, a couple of years ago, my company has 5 years now, but it wasn't a couple of years ago that I realized, like, okay, I can just design businesses because that's what I like strategy, in other words, is business modeling and all these things that I really like. And I've always been fascinated with, like, okay, but how do they do this? Like, how do these big companies get it done? And think about these crazy complex strategies. One of the things that I say a lot is that strategies are not made of one single move. There's always more than one. And so I feel like trying to, you know, reverse engineer the strategies and trying to understand those things, I felt like, okay, this is where I really identify with. And so for the past couple of years now, I have been mentoring, actually, which is something that I also like. I came from the consulting world my entire career. I love it. I still do some bit of consulting every now and then, but mostly what I do today is mentor entrepreneurs and their companies, their teams, to have the best strategies that to honor them, because I feel sometimes a lot of people try to copy other people's business models, copy other people's strategies, you know, and it doesn't fit them for some reason, which I think it doesn't, right? It says, I feel like all the moms in the world would agree with me when they say to their children, like, you're not everyone. So why would your company be like everyone else's? Like, so my premises are that, like, I am here to help you design your business to honor you and your values and your team as best as I possibly can through, you know, business modeling, team strategy, culture, organization, like all these different areas that, you know, I've been touching bases all this throughout the years. And now, like, I feel like I designed a way to actually help businesses in a more comprehensive way through my mentoring practice. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, I'm impressed. So I really want to thank Summer for bringing you all, because she knows you all, but it's my first time hearing all your stories, and I've been taking some notes here, and it's like highlight of what each one of you, when they talking about themselves and entrepreneurship, and especially each one of you answering Marty's question of what entrepreneurship means, all of you answered like my question, gave my answer. So from freedom, Summer, honoring yourself, Helen, to independence with Rabab, that represents entrepreneurship. I am an entrepreneur myself. I run my own business. I've been part of corporate world, working 9 to 5, and I don't think entrepreneurship and corporate work is disconnected. You can still build a business and leverage your skill set and your business to work with other corporates like Marty. I love it for the freedom, and I love it as well for being the creator. And for me, I care about creating impactful business, and for me, being part of the bigger vision, like instead of just I like, putting everything together myself, and also I like to think of something and go for it. So I guess that's entrepreneurship, and I love all your answers and all your paths. Again, like Marty said, it's no straight path. Entrepreneurship is ups and downs and trying to figure it out all the time until here you are 5 years later, like Helen, and you are owning your own business. I want to transition after introducing yourselves and your path into entrepreneurship. I love tech, and I think we all are, to some extension, women in tech or women entrepreneurs. And in today's world, we cannot talk about entrepreneurship or starting a business without the conversation of technology and how to stay ahead with all these trends. We know the whole is like upside down now with AI. So I want to go back to Marty and ask you the question on how do you stay ahead with these trends in your business? How do you adopt it or adapt your business to all these technology trends?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, what's interesting is that part of our model is really to help a lot of these, even tech companies, stay ahead of those trends, right? So when we are working with young people in our research model, we're pulling in insights from literally all over the world. And we're doing that in a way so that we can follow what are what we call like the signals of change. What are the things that are popping up that we really need to know? And we're going to see those trends coming out of younger generations. And so we take that information and distill it into ways that the companies that we work with can actually embed that in their design processes, right? So whether it's internal things that they're trying to build out, or how they're attracting a younger workforce, or the products that they're actually designing and making, these are insights that help put that into place. So I guess in a way that funnel allows us to see what's coming up. But in terms of day to day, right, we've gone through our own painful process over the last few years of really looking at how do you continue to scale out things and what technology helps you scale it out, but also still providing the type of service or the type of connection points that you need. And so really analyzing those pieces, getting better systems in place. Every single bit has to work together. Every single piece has to help you hit those goals. And so, it's not an easy ride, whether it's you're reflecting on your own things that have to get stronger or better, or use more AI, or use more, other tools that are out there, or whether it's, delivering out those types of trends.
Yeah, totally agree. Reflecting on Rabab's now, because Rabab, you kind of representing different style of entrepreneurship. I'm not sure if the solopreneur that describe you being a tech consultant, being the company, and I know how that looks like, because when I was starting out, I was doing it all by myself. So I can imagine how it would be, but as Rabab, as being the company, how technology helped you in executing your day-to-day operation as a business and even as a tech consultant or a product consultant, that's the word. How do you integrate technology in your business, and how does that help you in your business operation?
Um, I get in a way I'm lucky because obviously I started as a software engineer, so a lot of things are very intuitive for me. So I do them, but I don't think about them. And it's like even the small things when you're starting, building like a website, for example. I can I can build it for myself. I'm not particularly web developer, but I can find my ways around CRMs and build a website for myself, etc. So in a way, it's been like always, I guess, a little easier than other people, which is it's humbling, but also it's a good reminder when you are someone who works with other people, because we do make assumptions. And sometimes you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like what comes very easy for me is not for other people. Uh, in a way, and that helps me because what I do is I build products. So that helps me think about the user more when we are building these products. So in a way, and the products I build, I still work pretty much very in technical products. So I help companies build software. So that's very much, APIs, all the web and stuff. So it's kind of, for me, it's kind of, sure, technology is my work in a way. But also, again, as someone running a business and you run the business on your own, this is going to sound very cliche, but ChatGPT, I love ChatGPT. It works like a little assistant for me. So, there is a lot, like, instead of spending all the time, searching online, ChatGPT does that for me. Always fact check. ChatGPT is not the truth. So, but still, you're not like, you're gaining a little bit of time. If you need a little design or a logo, for like your new venture, again, you can get like ChatGPT or other tools to do it for you. One of the things is my job requires a lot of writing. As a product person, I need to be writing strategy documents and all of these stuff all the time. Now, English is my third language. So I also use ChatGPT, but here's the trick. I don't ask ChatGPT to write for me. I ask ChatGPT to refine what I'm writing, to make sure that my own stories and my own voice is not lost. But then ChatGPT can make my sentences a little bit more elegant. So that's quite nice to do. And that would be my tip of the day. Use ChatGPT, but don't let ChatGPT write for you. Like make ChatGPT kind of correct what you're writing. So I use that a lot, actually, again, to run the business and understand the parts that I don't really understand, like accountants and like taxes and all of invoices and all of that. But yeah, technology is my bread and butter, I guess.
Yeah, that's I just wanna piggyback on the AI and ChatGPT, and I guess the use of it has been tremendously increasing these days. And it's important to note what you mentioned earlier regarding like fact checking, and also make it your story. It's all about your story. That's what makes you different. That's what make people, pay attention to your business or your product. So there is these tools, and also what we call prompt engineering. Anyone can have a certification in prompt engineering. It's available. There is a lot of courses. So I think like for the audience here, they can go and study and learn some tips on how to use ChatGPT and leverage it in their businesses or even in their day-to-day tasks. Helen, I know you mentioned that you are not techie, but you design businesses. So you are So you are the big guy here. You design strategies and businesses. And Rabeb mentioning ChatGPT and AI tools overall, and whether in writing strategies, writing outlines and technical documentation or strategy planning, how do you go about using AI, for example, or any tech tools in your design thinking or planning or strategy planning in your business?
In that way, I think I'm very old school, which it's weird because I'm 31, but yeah, we're here. I feel like for me, I don't use AI as much. I am not a prompt engineered person. But one thing that I understand the logic of it. I like to understand the logic of it. I do have a mentee though that works with e-commerce businesses, and with her, one interesting piece of work that we've been doing is that she mapped out like all these different types of AIs, right? Because ChatGPT was one type. There is AIs today for, doing images, doing videos, cutting videos, doing captions in different languages, all these different things. In her case specifically, she found all these different types of AIs for doing logos, for doing all these different things that like literally anyone needs to kick off a business, an e-commerce specifically, right? So you need all those images for the website and all those things, for the descriptions of each one of the products and etc. So she developed this Notion, like she is really good at Notion, and it was pretty amazing to see her working through that, because I really do feel that she's also a project manager, which I feel like all of us is a little bit like I get that sense, but I do have a feeling that from operational to strategy levels, AIs will have different, of course, functionalities. We will use them differently, but overall, even though I don't use them much, but I do understand the logic. So, for example, one thing that I really like, the only times that I use AI, for example, is when I want to compare business models or templates or biographies or things like that, because I want to understand if the AI is seeing the same strategies that I am in that story. So I feel like in my way, what I'm trying to do is use the AI as sort of a comparison, a parameter, a reference for my own thinking process as a strategist. And I feel like I don't use it to develop a lot of things. Of course, there is like all the reports and all of that. But because I have been working with this for such a long time, I have templates for literally everything I do. So at this point, AI don't really help me much in that front. Just because I have the processes so well, like, oiled and everything.
Mhm.
But I do have a sense that like there is, of course, with more usage we have and the development, I feel like from the strategy standing point, AIs will have a very important role in helping strategists to really have a broader package of references, if that makes sense. Because even as a strategist, I don't know all the strategies in the world. I traveled to a lot of countries. I worked with, all this 190 countries that Mark is talking about. Like, of course, we know people there, but we don't really know the whole culture of the country. We don't really, we can know people, right? But it's really hard for a single human being to know about all the strategies in all the countries in the world. So I feel like for that one specific point, I feel like AI is going to be really helpful for strategists and also business model. Like, I feel like if you can build a really good prompt for AIs to compare different aspects of similar niche business models, like that's going to be super helpful for you in building your differentiators, your branding, your positioning, different types of things, even in the processes of delivering for your client. So that's my 2 cents on this topic, even though I'm not a tech person, just for the record.
Yeah, I totally agree with every piece you mentioned. I promise Samar to not make this conversation about AI. She knows how much I get passionate about the topic. But one last thing, I just want to go back to Marty. I promise this is going to be the last. Because Marty, you mentioned that you work with governance and big corporate company, and I remember you mentioned that you work with IBM Z, and their initiatives, and you can refer to that, but also how do you see AI shaping the future of businesses, from entrepreneurship or small business perspective, but also from a bigger scale like IBMs or big companies? What's your take on that?
How much time do we have? It's such a big topic, and it's a great topic. I do think, we've seen over the last 2 years just the tipping point with AI. It is everywhere. It's embedded into more and more tools. And I think people aren't even aware of how much AI is embedded into things that they use. So your user cases are more and more there. I learned, I wasn't at the event, but it was a really interesting event that was actually focused on small and medium-sized businesses. And there were so many case studies that were coming out of that, just interesting ways in which companies are utilizing it, and not your traditional ones, like not companies that are your traditional big tech companies. So I do think that it is a space that everybody needs to be playing in, whether you agree with it or not, or just not, it doesn't, some people are very, thrown by it and run away from it, but it's here. And so we need to figure out how we're using it. We need to figure out what it means. We need to figure out like what are the cases that we can use. But the big companies obviously are all striving for different ways in which to bring AI to market. And we've seen these technology cycles in the past, right? I think many of you who are here would probably sort of remember all the smartphone development and life maybe before that. I don't know. I've lived through many more cycles than all of you. But there's always a rush to see who is going to dominate the market, right? And so your big companies are working both on just incredible solution sets to problem solve big issues, societal issues, but then also, what are just the demands of the market and bringing it to so many people, and what does that look like? So you see kind of this AI, I don't want to call it a battle, but like this kind of like edging on both sides for a lot of the bigger companies. But it is just as important for, smaller companies to try to figure out how do you incorporate it in, because it is showing up in all the tools that we use. Every software now has an AI feature, right? There's so many more things on our phones that have AI embedded into it. So understanding the possibilities and understanding I wouldn't say dangers, but limitations or areas that maybe you need to be aware of, right? I mean, I guess the last comment I'll say on this is, because we're working with so many youth, we're seeing so firsthand the problems in social media on, misinformation, disinformation, that's all been AI generated, right? Or passed around and turned viral through AI. So there's that technically was not the right way to say it, but, being passed around and extended out there. So I think there is an awareness that we all need to have on how it is affecting our lives.
Absolutely. And I guess that's the best way to say it, awareness about the risks and opportunities with every technology that comes with it. But that's platform, that's why we're talking about it in today's, to raise awareness for other people and students or professionals who are exploring this sector. Over to you, Samar.
For not turning it into an AI discussion. No, but it's really important, and I love our discussion so far. But I also know that all the members from IEEE and Women in Engineering, they will be watching us. They will ask this question: okay, 3 of you are entrepreneurs. Did you need a lot of money to start? How did you start? So I would love to ask you this question because we got it multiple times. Like, how could you better navigate the funding landscape? Like, how did you start? Did you really need a big funding, or how was like the starting point? I mean, Marty, you can start, or as usual.
I'm happy to start. It's actually, I'll tell a funny story briefly. Is just one of the first times I think I mentioned early at the beginning that like I went back to get my master's. Got pregnant and launched International Connector at the same time, and I went to a forum in New York with all sort of people who work in technical fields, and it was very general, and it was sort of what eventually became a lot of these like startup pitch competitions and things like that that didn't really exist, so I'm a little old, and so but I showed up, you know, in a nice red dress and very pregnant, and I was pitching that day to the crew, like to the group, and I was probably the only woman in the space. And so it was, you know, obviously it did not go very well. And I think all the cliche limitations of women in the technical space or in the startup world or as an entrepreneur, and, you know, and then the realities of like balancing family life and being an entrepreneur, you know, there's a lot of those out there. So I really I've never done traditional, like, or not, I don't even know if they're called traditional routes, but like I've never done VC funding or angel investors. What I did is secure clients. And, you know, for better or worse, because there's certainly moments where that's not a great strategy when you're trying to scale, but it has been the strategy that has worked for me. And it also, I was thinking before, Bob, where you were just talking about like you don't want a big company, right? And there were many years where I could ebb and flow on what I wanted to do because I had kids and things that I needed to concentrate there. So I could keep things in a certain size as well, right? And so that can, and then I could, you know, pull the lever if we wanted and increase that. But that was all based on my progressions and my way of doing it. If you're trying to come out with something that is going to require a huge investment from the start, right, you're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to go get that investment. And, you know, there are so many more opportunities now. There are accelerator programs, and there are mentors and there are organizations like SheEO that invest directly into women, right? Like there's so many options today in terms of this. And almost, I feel like every event has a startup pitch competition, and, you know, so it's just putting yourself out there and trying some of those to see if you can get the attention or refine your pitch.
Thank you so much, Marty. And securing clients is one of your key, I think, strategies. And so for the audience, like as Marty said, you have the choice to choose your start point, depending on the idea of the project, on the path you want to have. So just believe in yourself. And let's get some other insights, other experience on how did they start. Helen, if you want to share with us.
Sure. I never asked for funding for my company. So I cannot speak directly to that experience, but I do have mentees, which we've built strategies for them to ask for funding. But my story is I had some financial backing from my own like savings. That's how I did it. The way I did it was basically I saved enough money to live for 5 years without depending on the money of my company to pay any of my bills. That's basically what I did. So now we're coming to our 5th year anniversary, and I am happy to report that we already have like revenue and everything is good. Life is good. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be in the beginning, But I was very scared. I've never done it in my life. I think for me, the entrepreneurial beginning, financially speaking, I didn't want to go to funding because I had 100% clarity in my head that I wasn't ready to have a partner. And investors are like partners on steroids. So I just wasn't ready. I didn't really know what kind of businesses. Like in the beginning, I wanted to start a research company because I wanted to research organizational culture, like, which is a little bit of what I do today, but definitely like I'm not writing papers and doing seminars. Like it's a very different perspective than I have right now. So I feel like the funding piece of it for me was never something, even though I knew how I could pursue it. I worked in startups for most of my career. I love funding. I think it's a great tool, especially in tech, especially if you don't have the means to like develop your research. If you don't, if you need a team in the beginning, which I didn't need, even though I did have a team in the beginning and my money was like a big hemorrhage of money everywhere. And I quickly learned that if I didn't sell anything, that was not going to be sustainable for a very long time. So, I gave myself 5 years to make all the possible mistakes that I could. And, I feel like that gave me some freedom to test things out. So, in the beginning, I thought I was going to do this research thing, which clearly I've never been academic. What was I thinking? Like, where did that come from? Then I quickly realized, like, oh my God, I'm spending so much time mentoring people. So when I was working with Marty and even other companies, I did start mentoring in 2016. And, one of my mentees once, he grabbed me by the arms and he looked into my eyes and said, "You're coming next year." It was a conference where I was his mentor. And he was like, "You're coming next year." And I said, "I don't know if I'm coming next year. What is next year? I don't know if I'm going to be alive next year." And he said, "No, seriously, like you're coming." And I said, "But why?" He said, "We need more mentors like you." And that was like my wake up call. So I feel like when he said that, I started really thinking like, okay, I need to do something with this. But in the beginning, I didn't know how to charge, how much to charge, what was all of the pricing things, right? Like, how do you even price anything in your life? I mean, so I feel like in the beginning, I mentored like over 150 people more, even, I think, for free out of the 300 that I have mentored at this point of my life. So I feel like that development, even for me, was really important because a lot of people are experts in what they do. Like, I have known innovation for a very long time, consulting for a very long time. I didn't want to start a consulting company. That was clear in my head. Like, I didn't want to do what I did before. I wanted to do other things. So I feel like for me, there was a whole journey of like understanding how to make my business make money and sustain itself. That was my first goal. One of the things that I tell my mentees always is like, your business in the beginning is like a baby, and the food that you give to this baby is cells. So like the first priority. So I feel like Marty is above all, like she's always ahead of everyone. She always know the best strategies for things most of the time, because assuring clients, knowing what you're selling, it's so important in the beginning. It's one of the first things that you need to learn for you to understand what having a business is, what entrepreneurship is about. Like, how are you going to deliver things? What is the process? What are the different things, the services you're going to sell? So I feel like all of those different pieces have been, a lot for me. And putting it that like at this point, I feel like we have made like what 300 like over, I think 200 for sure K in Brazilian reais, which I don't know for sure how much that is in US dollars right now. But I have invested over more than 100, like 150 at this point, in mentorship programs. So it makes sense, right, that I sell something that I buy so intensively and I believe so much. I feel like for me, in my niche specifically, you have to be a very firm believer in what you do. Like, it would be so easy for me to go back to consulting or do something that I knew before. But I knew that as an entrepreneur, that wasn't exactly what I wanted. So it was a full journey of like having mentors who did it right in mentorship and learning their business models and tweaking their business models and learning from them, learning how I was going to do it myself and doing it and selling it and validating offers and doing all of that. So I feel like I chose to do that instead of funding because I wanted to learn my weaknesses. I started very early on. So like consulting at this, like when I left, I knew everything I was doing. I knew everyone. I could do like all these different things. It was very nice and great. But my learning curve was like not as exciting as I was in the beginning. So I feel like, I intentionally made myself feel like literal shit in the beginning of my entrepreneurial career because I wanted to learn. I needed to admit I'm bad at sales. I don't know how to make sales. I need to learn this. I actually had to learn things. It was hard. And as learning how to, ride a bike, it's harsh. You're gonna like have some bruises sometimes, and your ego especially. But I feel like it was well worth it. And now even I was telling one of my team members the other day, I am so grateful to be able to see in my mentees like things that I would ask myself, but I wouldn't even know the right words to ask the questions, like in the beginning when you're babbling and you're not even aware of what questions to ask. So I feel like now I can see their questions before they ask and help them before they have to go through what I've been through. So I tell them like, don't waste your money on teams if you're not selling it. Like this marketing strategy for this point as your strengths. Like I can analyze things very easily now. And I feel like if I did have funding, if I did, for example, in the beginning, hire a salesperson or a whole team or something like that, I wouldn't have developed the skills that I need to actually run my business as I do today and even train other people. So, or even require freelancers, know what to ask, know what to look for. And I feel like that's really important for entrepreneurs. So one thing that I know for sure for me is that of course, I want to have a big business. At some point, I'm sure I'm going to go for funding at some point for some other things that I don't do right now. But I have to learn all of these things before. Otherwise, how can I sustain something if I don't know how to sustain something small as I have right now? How can I have all this money from funding if I don't really know how to hunt? Like, if I have 100K right now, how can I know how to make 10 times that, out of the blue, just because someone gave it to me? Of course, it's not someone giving it to you. Of course, we understand it's much more complicated than that. But if you have not made $1 million, how can you manage $1 million? That's the question that I ask myself. I know that there's a lot of other people more qualified than me to do that, but I understand that that's not my capability. And I need to learn that first to feel safe, to feel confident that I can do that with other people's money. So for me, I feel like funding is very important. And one of the advices that I give my mentees is if you're going to have anyone funding, and it could be your friends, it could be like an investor, an angel, like a big fund, whatever kind of investment you're looking for. Be sure that you're confident about what you're doing, because it's not easy. And a lot of investments, like if you're dealing with actual investors, they know that they're going to waste money. Like they invest in 10 companies and they know that one of them is going to make money for them, but they are risk takers. They know what they're doing. So understand that whole situation and understand what you're doing with your business before you ask other people for seed money, whatever it is. I'm not super averse to risk, but I do think that that's important for you to know before you ask other people for their money in your company.
It's really interesting. And the good thing about today's session is that we have 3 different backgrounds or 3 different experiences. So you can put your shoe instead of everyone here dependent on your profile. And what about you, Rabab? Like, tell us how it started, or if you can share with us how to navigate. Yeah.
Sure. So, as Abir mentioned, as a solopreneur, it's I guess it's like maybe easier. So, because like I don't need I don't need external funding, but I still need funding. So it was just a process of planning and saving, and this is the money I'm gonna start with, and then I think. With entrepreneurship, you unfortunately you always need to plan for the worst case scenario, which is like I'm not going to be making money for this month, or you're never making the same amount of revenue, right? So you need to plan for all of that, which means you need to have, like, a cushion of funding to rely on to ease off, like that pressure and stress. So that's exactly what I did. I did not just resigned from my job and suddenly I'm like, I'm here. I worked towards having like that safety net. And the other thing which Marty did mention, which is networking. Networking is really important. Again, whether you're asking for funding in the traditional way, please invest in my business, or building those relationships, because it's via my network that I also managed to get like gigs and get customers because of the people who I know in my network. So whether that's like a direct or indirect way to get funding, networking is really important. And by the way, like, it's been proving that women-led businesses outperform other businesses. So if you're someone who's going out there to pitch, that's a great data point to have on your pitch and say, look, we do better. Maybe put some faith, maybe put some faith in me. But yeah, like, my experience is slightly different, but also the same in the sense that you need to plan, you need to work on your planning, safety net, and having that network who will eventually bring in investment or revenue in a way or another.
Yeah.
Amazing, Rabab, thank you. So today, like, just as an overview, we have secure your clients, try to reach out to NGOs and be part of mentorship, entrepreneurship, and opportunities, save money to start and get a good business model, and expect to generate benefits and revenues within 3 to 5 years, depending on your business model. Networking is your key. Like, to start your business and to be successful, but plan your strategy to get the big out of it and to benefit from it, which is really, really good and very different approaches that I like. Thank you so much for sharing this. And one question to you, Marty. Like, I know that you tried different type of funding strategies. And can you tell us what best have worked for you, like, especially as an advice for an early startupper or a woman who's thinking or who's having an idea about how to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that is really helpful is if you can attach yourself to an organization, right? So it could be an association, right? Like IEEE, where there are resources, there are networks, there are opportunities to showcase things that you do. That is a great way to get known. That is a great way to pitch, right? By doing. And there are lots of organizations and lots of associations out there. And so, some are going to bring you right in and some aren't, but find the ones that you can go and do that through. We even today, right? I think one of the early companies that I worked with when I switched into running International Connector was a youth travel conference. And I was able to do so much at that conference and meet so many people that I still know today that are in my network. And that led me to another association that, we just did a big event in New York City with. And we're already into planning the next spot. So these things build upon each other, and these organizations have the opportunities for you to be there. So being ready, finding those moments, and not being shy to roll up your sleeves to demonstrate what it is that you can do.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I love it. I love what you ladies shared. Each one of you have different perspective on how they acquired funding to run their businesses. I wanted to go back to Samar herself. I mean, she's kind of shied away from that to share her experience with IEEE. I know we both part of IEEE. Marty, maybe you are familiar with IEEE, but IEEE has a lot of funding opportunities, like the IEEE Foundation for Philanthropy project. So if you are an IEEE member and you have a project for underserved community or philanthropy, or even nowadays tech project, there is different initiatives and programs that support that. And I wanted to share as an example, have Summer share her example with IEEE site. It's a project that we all heard about it in IEEE, especially in Tunisia. It was such a pride. So I want you, Summer, to share that with us and to inspire other IEEE members and even the speakers here.
Okay, thank you. That was an unexpected question. It's not according to what we prepared for today's session, but yeah, I can talk about my small and amazing experience. Like with IEEE, there is IEEE HST Human Activities Committee and IEEE site that I founded in 2016 in Tunisia, and we got a funding at the beginning for 25K. And then like we worked in multiple initiatives throughout the country with the help of Marty. That's how we knew each other. And I'm addressing this to all the audience of IEEE. There are plenty of opportunities if you have ideas, and there are plenty of mentorship programs where you can pitch, participate in competitions, and start your project. And if it works well, like, because they don't really ask for any benefits from you or money back from you, just they want to see the impact. We worked for 2.5 years with it, and then I wanted to be bigger and I wanted to start a social enterprise, and I got a funding of 100K with IEEE also. But unfortunately there was Corona, there was some political, let's say, problems meanwhile, so I decided to step out and to return back the money. It's unfortunate for IEEE to hear that, but it's true. But I'm really thinking about getting back to that, because it was one of my best experiences ever. And you know what? I work now in a big company and I'm a project manager, and I work and I love my job. But all of the experience that I acquired came from that experience of entrepreneurship, to be honest. Everything, because you're going to wear multiple hats. You're going to learn about finances. You're going to learn how to pitch. You're going to learn about business, and which was not my field of study. You're going to learn about design. You need to have a bit of idea about how to build your website and UI part, UX, UI. I'm not a UI, UX expert. So I really encourage you, because I've been through that. Now I'm back to my 9-to-5 job to secure some funds for my new business, hopefully next year's. But thank you, Abir. That was one of my best, let's say, experiences, and I will be back for sure. That's why we are back to those kind of webinars, to encourage you and inspire you to do more. And after this session, we will share a lot of funding opportunities. But we also have very good news at the end of the session that we're going to share later on with Abir about our next session. But let's continue our amazing discussion. I hope you are having fun, because I am enjoying this session. And I think we're going to vote for it as the best webinar of the year with IEEE TV. But yeah, like, as a woman entrepreneur, I want to get back to you, Marty, because I know you are a mother of 2 lovely men. I cannot say boys, I saw them young, but now they are men. And one of them is an entrepreneur. Like, how do you balance the demand of running a business life with your personal life? Like, how was it?
It's hard. But I think that's also one of the biggest driving forces of why, I've always run my own business. And it was one of the driving forces of why I started it. And I needed flexibility to raise my kids. And that didn't, really exist. I became a mother at a time where people were in offices, and we were always virtual from day one. And so it was, we wouldn't necessarily stress that with our clients because people didn't really understand it at that time. But it was the way that I could work. And we were traveling so much, or we were working, independently as a team. And I needed to figure out that balance. And so a lot of decisions in the company have been led by what I needed in my personal life. And one of the things that I will say is, there's really an epidemic worldwide with young, like not just with young people, because it's also with professional women, but around confidence. And confidence is really lacking. And we hear it in every single one of our programs. Whether it's like, again, with professional women, talking about it with the youth that we work with communities that we go into, confidence, and especially from women. And I would also I have another question for people to keep in their minds is when are you confident? And what do you do that makes you confident? And it could be a hobby, right? And for me, I had to get back to singing, which was something I did when I was young. And I got back to it a few years ago. And it really has fueled my business and it has fueled me. And so I do bring that back as like a work-life balance. What is the thing in your life that helps drive you? Because it is important and it is part of the factor that's going to help you be successful and happy in what you're doing.
Yeah, that's very right and personal. Thank you, Marty. And like what I like now is they are trying to normalize like showing your kids or sharing your personal struggles during your meetings, because it's real. Like, okay, we are hiding our background during the meeting, but sometimes you have some kids running and sometimes there's something burning and you're trying to do it all. So I love that. Life improved for women, like working women and entrepreneurs. Hopefully, like it's gonna continue there. And I wanted also to say that Rabab runs in all of the countries, and she really runs. Like she participates in marathons. She's not only a tech lady. So, like, how are you dealing with like burnouts, managing stress? If you want to do it all.
Well, I have a marathon in 2 weeks, and I'm just like the thought of I'm like it's stressful. Talking about stress, it's stressful. So I think first of all, like stress is real, burnout is real, and I think most countries, whatever your health body is, they would have on their official website, they would have the list of symptoms, because sometimes you're like, I don't feel like doing anything, and you don't know that's actually that's like a flavor of burnout. So just like check that list. I think again, it's kind of because of like how my career was and traveling a lot of with work, it was take care of yourself. I was quite lucky because it was just like the culture of my team. We are always on the move. Life is like, you're always on the go. So take care of yourself. So I always had in my mind to take care of my mental health, like try to kind of figure out like the early signs of like stress and burnout. Obviously life is stressful, and a healthy amount of stress is good. It means that you care. I'm stressed about this marathon because I do want to do well after all. So like there is like a balanced amount of stress that is good. What I try to do again, trying to first of all figure out the early signs of like, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm stressed. And once I'm there, I kind of stop, and I have a list of activities and techniques that I do. By all means, they should not work for everybody. You should not be running marathons if you don't enjoy marathons, but you should have your own list of things to do. So I do exercise, even when I'm very lazy, because eventually I know the value of exercise, of 30 minutes of exercise. They really make you feel better. They make you suffer, but they make you feel better. I'm someone who likes reading, and I've been reading a lot. I do read about, like, you know, self-help. I do read about, like, different subjects. This is the most basic thing, but it's so important. Eat healthy and get enough sleep and drink water. Like, and then we were like, oh yeah, sure, everyone is saying these things on Instagram, and yet we don't do them, but they are important. Like, you know, like, yes, get enough sleep. No one needs to see all these TikTok videos later at night. Get it, you need that sleep. So I always try to have, like, you know, a fairly more or less healthy, you know, lifestyle. And again, find your passion, whether that's singing, whether that's, you know, running. Find something that really produce those happy hormones. You're like, you're tricking and bribing your brain literally to produce the right hormones for you. So find that. And something that is very important for me, and I'm very open and about it, which is my boundaries at work, whether that was like the full-time, you know, 9 to 5 job, or on my own. When I'm not working, I'm not working. I have all the setups on my phone. So after 5 p.m., I wouldn't be able to see any work emails. I do not check my work emails on a weekend. I plan on a Monday morning, and I know there are different opinions. Some people say, like, to be productive, you need to do, like, maybe Sunday, you know, afternoon, evening, check your calendar, plan your, like, your week. And I'm like, Sunday is not a working day for me. Why do you want me to do something for my work? I'll plan on a Monday morning. I'm very strict about these boundaries because, again, as someone who worked remotely all the time, it's quite like, you know, it's like, oh, flexibility. Maybe I'm just going to go out now and not work, and then I'll work late. And you do, but before you know it, your evenings are becoming your work, and there is no boundaries between life and work. But I think it's really important to put these boundaries in place. Again, your boundaries might look different from my boundaries. You might want to work in the evenings and have the day. Maybe you like working on a Sunday, but as long as you have those boundaries and having a moment for your brain to rest. And like the last sentence on this, we need, because this is something I hear all the time with the best intentions, which is there is always like we do something to be productive. Oh, you need to take care of yourself to be productive. You need to rest to be productive. We should not take care of our wellness to be productive. We should be rest for the sake of resting. Like, this is a message, unfortunately, that is, it's always, there is a value attached to anything that you do for yourself, especially for women. As you know, it shouldn't be. You should rest because you deserve to rest and you need to rest. So please take care of yourselves, like, in whatever ways that work for you. And if you want to run a marathon with me, I'm always looking for running partners.
It's on my checklist for life. I hope I can do marathon one time. But you know, it's for real. Statistics show that women were more likely to experience burnout than men, and it's 1.5 higher than men. So it's real, and healthcare is real, and you want to do it all. Like, being a perfect mother, if you want to be a mother, be perfect partner, and an entrepreneur or a working woman. So it's important. And it's up to you now, Abir, if you want to go to the next topic.
Yes, absolutely. And before we move on, I think this is a very important topic. I wanted to hear Helen input, even for 1 minute, on that, because all the ladies touched on this important topic, and I wanted to hear her experience as an entrepreneur as well. We all different styles, and we might share these experiences of burnout, boundaries, setting boundaries. And I agree with all you said, but I want to hear Helen first before we move on to the next topic.
So my take on this is I could say a lot of things. I almost died 4 times at this point in my life, and most of them are due to burnout. So actually, I had to learn about, a lot of different things, psychology, trauma, all these different things for myself, for the mere reason to survive. And I could say a lot of things because obviously, like, I started after going through this crazy period of organizational culture research in my business. I actually started mentoring people through the diagrams, the frameworks, the design things that I did for myself. Actually, I wrote a whole self-knowledge book because of my mother. She was retiring. She was very, very tired. She wasn't in a burnout state yet, thank God. But she was very tired and she wanted to design her retirement in a way that wasn't stressful for her. So she was like, Helen, do you want to do post-its? And I said, Mom, this is not a thing. My post-its are not a thing. And eventually she convinced me to write a book just because of her, so she wouldn't bother me about this anymore. Eventually my friends started asking me if I could do what I did with her with them. And so my self-knowledge, self-management, not get into another burnout technique eventually become my business. And that's how I started the mentorship progress that I have right now. And I'm happy to share my book with everyone. I can give it to you guys and you can share the file with everyone later. I'm happy to do that. But yeah, I feel like on the broader aspect of the question, I do agree with Rabeb. Knowing yourself means knowing your boundaries, and the clearer you have them, the better you can actually develop your relationships with presence and quality, moreover than just getting things done for the sake of getting things done. I feel like the older I get, the more I look for quality over quantity. So I am looking for, people who are more aligned with my values, people who respect my boundaries, people who understand even my cultural context. Because even though I'm Brazilian and I live in Brazil, I'm always with a bunch of people from a lot of different places in the earth, So I feel like there are a lot of those different things that I know about myself that makes me very selective about how I spend my time, who I spend it with, and how I prioritize all of not just time investment, but money investments, all kinds of investments, energy. And I feel like understanding how to do that not just makes you more productive, it is a fair consequence, but it does make you live a fuller life and more aware of who you are and what you want to remember. This is something I always tell my mentees. Just make sure the decision that you're making is something that you want to remember, because that's a single thing that no one else can do for you. No one else can make the decision for you. No one else can live with the consequences of your decisions for you. So I feel like, again, going to the honoring yourself type of thing is my whole core. But yeah, I feel like the balance is always, as long as you are who you are, true to yourself. There's, there's always going to be things that you're going to choose. Every yes means a million no's. And as long as you're clear about that, you should be fine.
Yeah, that I love what you shared, to be honest, and thank you for sharing that. And as Kimodi said, thank you for sharing all your vulnerabilities with us here. It's all lessons that you learn, and by sharing it, we're learning with you. And I want to expand to that, trying to find the balance, work-life balance, but also by, with this like journey, trying to look for our balance in life and our business. As entrepreneurs, sometimes while we scaling the business, we wanna we start looking or focusing on building our team. So I will continue with you, Helen, because it was inspiring what you shared, but also by setting those boundaries, there's still job to get done when it comes to the business, and the business will not run itself. And And that take us to, building a team, delegating tasks, and all that. So how did you go about building your teams, especially in the early stage in your business, delegating tasks, and what style of leadership you adopted into running your business?
So I feel like there are different ways of approaching how to build a team, especially in the beginning. The way I did it was forgive me, but I suck. I have to be honest. I suck at finance. I suck at it. Especially my like business. Now I know more of it, but in the beginning I was like clueless. So that was the first thing I delegated. It took me like 2 cells to understand I had no idea how to do that right. Like just 2. It was like 1, I thought maybe I did this one wrong. And the second one, I was like, nope, this is a pattern. I cannot do this anymore. So, I feel like that was the first priority for me. So the principle that I learned is delegate the things that take you huge amounts of time and that keep you from doing what makes you shine. For me, it's mentorship. If I can delegate every single aspect of my business and I can mentor day and night, in and out, I'm here for that. I am so here for that. So I feel like that's my business priority. And it's been very clear since, very early on. I learned that very fast. But I did, even though doing that, I in the beginning, I had 5 people in my team and I didn't have any income in the business to pay them. I was paying them out of my pocket. So I feel like coming out of a big structure, big team, with Marty, you work with hundreds of people all around the world, you meet a lot of people, you get to know all these amazing people in 190 countries. I was like, oh yeah, 5 people is fine. We're gonna get it done. It's okay. And then all of a sudden, took me a year to realize that like I was not doing well. So I feel like every business has different needs. So for example, some of my mentees will need help with marketing because they are shy and they don't like to put their faces out in social media, and their business run on digital. So their businesses on digital platforms, like they need to do something. So I feel like sometimes it changes according to who you are as an entrepreneur, your strengths, your weaknesses, what your needs are as a business. So I don't feel like there is a formula for this question, if that makes sense. But I do feel that the more aware you are about what you can deliver by yourself. And then one question that I always ask my mentees that help them to make this decision is, are you being the person that your business needs right now to grow and get into the next step? Because sometimes it's not a matter of knowing, okay, I need a finance person, I need a marketing person, I need someone else. It's like, how am I going to make this decision in such a way that's actually going to build growth? How am I going to make this into like a sustainable business? So I feel like understanding how to answer that question is always helpful in making this decision. But every different business is going to have different needs in forming a team. And my leadership style is very straightforward, like being 100% clear with you. I am the person who will share my thoughts. I will share the strategies. Everyone who works with me know all of my numbers. They know how much we make. They know everything. The only thing I don't share with them is how much each other make. That's the only thing, unless they feel comfortable sharing that. But they know in sales, they know how many active clients we have. I am a very open book type of person, and I take in all of the suggestions, all of the things, with the regard that like they know that the final decision is going to be mine because the business is mine, and they know that like bottom line, if everyone leaves, I have to live with the decisions. So we're very well aligned in that matter. Of course, we're a very small team. So this is I cannot speak to like having 100 people under my business. I don't have that experience. But as it is now, I am very happy. Also, I have learned that most of the time, not everyone has to know everything, nor do they want to know everything. Like, even though I want to share everything, they don't want to know everything. They just want to know what they need to know to get their stuff done and, have a good relationship with each other. So also learning that was very special for me because I felt always that like there was this mystique reason for strategies not to be shared with some levels in operation and stuff in big companies. And I feel like as the years go by in my team, I understand that like it actually sometimes doesn't help for you to share everything with everyone all the time. It just takes away the attention. So there is a balance there. That's my piece.
Yeah. Thank you, Halam. And I think we all agree on like focusing on what you're good at and delegate the rest. If we can all agree on that, I think that's the core of building a team. But I want to go to Marty, and since she like mentioning from her introduction and what I know so far now, I believe you have a large experience working with different team, different time zones, and I think we are all international here, so we all experienced working in international global environment, different culture, different talent, and different time zones. So Marty, over to you. How do you go about managing teams and ensuring productivity from all angles with, diverse teams?
I think it's come down to getting some good tools in place. That there are really some great technology platforms that help a lot with that. And then we do a lot with, like we have a virtual office and we have team work sessions that just bring the team together at certain times that overlap. It doesn't always work. And so we'll have different groupings depending on where people are in the world because they are located in different places. But that has really helped. So using just some personal time to connect in, but then also utilizing a number of really strong software platforms to help support communication, to help support tracking of projects and collaboration. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marty, and thank you all. I know that we exceeded the time for 5 minutes. I would love to continue this amazing conversation, but unfortunately, like it needs to end because we are recording it, and normally it's for 90 minutes. I want to get one last advice or one last word from all of you to all women entrepreneurs and all members from IEEE that are gonna watch our session today. Like as women entrepreneurs and as inspiring women from across the world. Like whoever wants to start, you have the word. It's not a competition. Okay.
Yeah, I can jump in. I think one of the things that people get bogged down with is that it has to be some big grand gesture to start. Where one of the things that we do teach young people is how to build upon things. So do something small. Just start something today. I mean, that could be a research, that could be a calling somebody, that could be asking a question and learning more about some area that you are interested in. But you'll find that over 3 months' time, 6 months' time, a year, all those little things have added up and you've actually taken steps that lead you towards what you want to do.
That's amazing and very specific. Thank you, Marty. Rabab, you have
Yeah, because I want to build on that what Marty just said, which is there is a very traditional way of looking at success and the path to anything, and as Marty said, doesn't have to be like something big or no one ever heard about it. You know the joke, if you want to start an apple pie from scratch, go plant the tree then. So I think it's important to take a moment to really figure out what you want, and your path might and probably will be different from somebody else's path. But as long as it works for you, and as long as you took the time to, you put the effort in, you thought about it, That's really what matters. So, you know, just build your own path.
Thank you so much, Rabab. Helen, you have a last word for us?
I think, again, just make decisions that honor you. I'm going to keep it short. I feel like as long as you're being true to yourself, you're on the right path. And I feel like Marty and Robert said so many great things. But yeah, as long as you're honoring yourself, I feel like it doesn't mean that you need to start big. Everything that's big now started small one day, you know. So I feel like as long as you're honoring yourself in everything you do, you're going to find your path eventually. So keep at it.
This was kind of emotional for me. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being part of our webinar. I will be sharing the link to IEEE TV. I hope that I'm going to host you one other time throughout the year or next year. Thank you for your time, for your valuable experience and stories and inputs. I see everybody is thanking our audience. Abir, you want to say last words?
Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to thank Marty, Rabab, and Helen for this inspiring and also very touchy, and I relate to every words you said. I just wanted to add one last thing for as we sharing advices, getting in rooms like this where you know you are part of the conversation in whatever you are interested in. Whether it's a mentorship program or a webinar or a conference, it's really important to not isolate yourself. Entrepreneurship journey can be lonely sometimes when you are starting. So try to find the people that you can relate to and you know, have this type of conversation that makes you feel, you know, pour into your cup, you know. So that's my last piece of advice, but also I invite everyone to stay tuned to our webinars. This is a pilot program that we started. It's a volunteering work that we're doing. We love having this conversation and hosting it and bring inspiring speakers like Marty, Rabab, and Helen. So stay tuned to the next. I wanted to thank Prachi, IEEE Women in Engineering staff, our co-chair, Kimodi, she's in the chat as well. I wanted to thank you for the support and for making the time to share this with us, and looking forward to the next sessions and staying connected with all of you.
Big love.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.